Georgia Southern and James Madison have the potential to be one of the better games this weekend. And these are two teams that can play at a high level. One for Georgia Southern would be on the offensive side of the ball, and James Madison, though they have improved offense, it's their defense that has been very disruptive this year. We'll start with Georgia Southern because this is a team that has been a pretty volatile team in terms of defense and offense. This has been a really good offense at times. They have also provided some really head scratching performances. You look at Davis Brin and what he can do, over 1,600 yards already, 12 touchdowns. He does also have 7 interceptions. 5 of those came against Wisconsin. So, this is a guy who can put up big numbers, but he can also put up big numbers in a negative way, too. Those interceptions obviously killed their chances against the Badgers, and it'll be a big reason why they either are competitive in this game, win this game, or they lose. Because if Davis Spring can't take care of the football, they might be in trouble. And we'll talk about more than that in a little bit. But this passing attack is really fun for Georgia Southern. When you look at the teams in college football, there are a number of offenses that are getting a lot of love. Georgia Southern is kind of flying under the radar. It's kind of bigger in the college fantasy football community, but this is an offense that can put up points in a hurry, can move the ball down the field through the air. Caleb Hood's having a good year. He's just one of many guys that Davis Byrne will find downfield. And when you look at the numbers for Georgia Southern, they are very good offensively. They have done a lot of really exciting things, but also their defense has done some really exciting things too. And they're facing a James Madison team that is improved offensively, but really what you have to worry about is their defense. And right now, I think that this offense for Georgia Southern can do a lot of good things, but keeping Davis Brin upright will be one of their biggest keys. When you look at James Madison, we kind of knew that this defense had the potential to be good. When you looked at the front seven, you knew exactly what you were getting. And so far, they have not disappointed. When you look at their disruptiveness, their ability to create havoc and chaos, I think you're looking at a team that is really fun to watch defensively, especially up front. Guys like James Carpenter, Jalen Green. I think there are a number of players that you can look at and see exactly why this team is so good. Now, the one thing that you have to point out is that James Madison is very good against the run. They're giving up just 38.6 yards per game, but they struggle mightily against the pass. They're giving up over 311 yards per game through the air. That's a problem when you're facing Georgia Southern because Georgia Southern wants to throw the football as much as possible, and they're very good at doing it. So James Madison, they're undefeated, but they have their hands full this week, that's for sure. And when we talk about the matchups to watch for this game, there are a number of really exciting matchups, and you can obviously talk about Georgia Southern's passing attack versus James Madison's pass defense. But we'll actually start with the opposite. We will start with the pass offense for James Madison. Reggie Brown is having a huge year for James Madison. Going against a guy like DeMel Hickman gives them an opportunity to potentially keep this game close and keep the explosiveness on James Madison's side as well, because they can make plays, but they just don't have the explosive offense that Georgia Southern does. Then we talked about this already, but I think one of the more underrated matchups in this weekend's slate of games is Caleb Hood against Logan Chauncey. Logan Chauncey is significantly underrated wide receiver or cornerback for James Madison. Caleb Hood is an underrated wide receiver for Georgia Southern. These are two guys that definitely don't get the recognition they deserve, but they're going to absolutely battle this weekend, and that could play a huge role in which team comes out on top. Now, keeping the front seven for James Madison pretty much negated will be a huge challenge for Georgia Southern. I don't think they have the talent that James Madison does up front, and guys like James Carpenter for the Dukes will definitely challenge guys like Chandler Strong. This is definitely an offensive line this is their biggest test to date. So finding ways to keep this front seven at bay will be huge. Now, Davis Brin also plays a role in this offense. Like I said before, keeping the ball with your team, not giving it to the other team, is going to play a huge role. So what Davis Brin can do in that regard, because at his peak, he's very fun to watch. But when he is struggling, he is struggling. So getting him on board, getting him into the game, and finding ways to, like I said, keep this front seven, especially the defensive line. Guys like Carpenter, and we mentioned before Jalen Green, you're looking at a very tough challenge for Georgia Southern. So for Georgia Southern, the first key has to be take care of the football. This is a James Madison team that does not need help scoring points, and that's saying something this year. That's one thing they've improved upon. They do not need help. And Davis Brin so far has helped a lot of people. He's been very generous with specifically to Wisconsin, but he has been already given up the ball 7 times through the air, and that doesn't include the fumbles. So you definitely have to take care of the football. You're gonna have to limit the havoc up front because, like I said, James Madison, very disruptive group, can get to the quarterback, can create tackles for loss at a pretty good clip. So this is definitely a group that will challenge what Georgia Southern wants to do. I think that for Georgia Southern too, you have to challenge James Madison's defensive backs. If you're able to give Davis Brin time to throw the football and he's able to hit some deep throws, then you're looking at a potentially good game for this Eagles offense. For James Madison, you have to bait Davis Brin. You have to be able to create pressure and force him to make some really questionable throws. And you're going to get the ball back if you're able to do that. Dominating up front will be a big reason why. If you're able to create a ton of disruption for this Georgia Southern offense, they will probably struggle and they will probably give you the ball back. And then finally on offense, you have to find balance. This is a group that Georgia Southern is very much we're going to throw the football. That being said, they do have some talented players at running back. You have Jalen White and you have OJ Arnold. Those are two good guys that just don't get enough switches just because of the nature of this offense. But James Madison is the more balanced approach offense. They do have explosive weapons, so don't get it wrong. It's not that they can't create explosive plays. It's that they are just the more balanced team. They will look to run and pass at a pretty much an even rate for both of those. So James Madison will definitely present some challenges in that regard too. And of course, the quarterbacks will play a huge role. I think that they are the X factors here. They're not necessarily the most talented players on either of their teams, but they definitely play a huge role. And so far, both are having solid seasons. If you take away the Wisconsin game, I think that Davis Brin's at 11 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions if you take that game away. Obviously, you can't do that, but Davis Brin is a very good quarterback when he's playing at his peak. Jordan McLeod is getting another chance to play quarterback, and he is not letting that go. He is showing that he deserves this chance, and it's been really fun to watch him play for James Madison. He has been obviously a big time impact player, and it's been really fun to see what he can do for James Madison and what he can do to balance because you can throw the football with him. You can also expect him to run or escape pressure, create some plays with his legs too. So that's definitely another thing that adds to it. When it comes to picking this game, James Madison has been teetering on a loss for a while now, and they have not really been that impressive in their last few games. They gave South Alabama a chance to back into the game, and they did the same thing with Utah State. Troy obviously a struggle. Virginia, they have not won convincingly since they beat Bucknell. That's concerning to me. The one thing that determines this outcome, James Madison, who struggled against defending the pass, cannot defend Georgia Southern, then the Eagles will win this one. And the Sun Belt is very talented, so this shouldn't be a surprise. But to me, if James Madison can be disruptive, which right now so far they have shown that they can do that, I think they're in good hands. That doesn't mean that Georgia Southern can't come back because they definitely can with this offense. But I think James Madison right now has that special effect to them, that different feeling. And for that reason, I'm going to give them the edge, but this one should definitely be extremely entertaining.